This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
What about the quality of care for senior citizens? Joining me to talk about that is Russ McDade. He's the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association. Well, Russ, I think you know as much about this as anybody. More than 2 million of us in Pennsylvania are over 65, and it's the largest in percentage terms growth in any demographic group. I mean, you're talking about huge proportions of people in our state who become 65 or older, and that poses serious challenges for their health care. Do I got that about right?
Yeah, Terry, we're facing unprecedented challenges, not just from that 65-plus group,
right,
but the 85-plus age group.
Great point.
Here in Pennsylvania, we're number 3 in the country in our percentage of residents that are older than 85. And that's really, you know, with the work that we do at the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the population that we really are most focused on. And today, as people are staying healthy longer and aging better, we don't typically see individuals until they're into their 80s who come to us for 24/7 care solutions.
Yeah, I mean, the other aspect of this is obviously as we get older, we need more additional care. And then you have the problems of, you know, I mean, lots of folks, they have their parents and they have to have their own families and their own work, and they have to be concerned about folks as they age and whether they can, A, take care of themselves. And so, in general terms, what's the state of long-term care in PA?
Well, there's a tremendous need for round-the-clock care, and there's no way to get out from under that. When people look at their long-term care needs, there's a common misconception out there that it's less costly to care for somebody in their own home than outside their home in a 24/7 facility. When you need round-the-clock 24/7 skilled cares, the facility has always been and continues to be the most cost-effective place to get that care on a 24/7 basis. That's the challenge that our state government has. Yeah. The state Medicaid program pays for 70% of that care, and they are struggling to keep up with costs. In fact, right now, our Medicaid-funded providers have reimbursement rates that lag their cost of providing care by almost $50 per person per day. I mean, that can be over $1 million a year for a 100-bed nursing facility.
Yeah, I mean, what's fascinating is that people will obviously try to do it themselves, and sometimes they'll have a professional come in, but at some point that's just not possible. I mean, and this, I've been through this. I mean, lots of folks have been through this. I mean, that's a hugely important decision that a lot of folks just simply aren't prepared to make, and learning about that is one of the more important things about how you deal with aging.
Well, that's right. And the other piece is we probably don't have enough caregivers to meet that need.
Oh, great point.
You know, I mean, we've got, you know, if we're caring for one caregiver per person in 2 million Pennsylvania households, those numbers don't add up. We already have a caregiver shortage. It's already challenging to get them to stay with us, and there just aren't going to be enough skilled caregivers to go around.
Yeah. The other aspect of this is that when you reach that decision where you have to, you know, a decision has to be made about where to go, that's a tough decision. I mean, how does a family even begin to think about doing that, selecting a facility?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there are no right answers. Every family's situation is different. Yeah. But you've got to be honest with yourself and honest with your loved one. The toughest conversation, you know, is always getting over the hurdle of the need, getting mom or dad or grandmom or grandpop, you know, to kind of understand, you know what, you just aren't safe anymore where you are. We love you too much to have you at risk. You know, we're worrying, you're worried. Let's see how we can find a solution for this.
I'll tell you, we're going to run to a break and we come back. I want to talk more about this. I mean, how do you start this conversation? How do you have the conversation? What do you do about it? And here we are in a holiday season where, you know, maybe that's a good time to do it when, first of all, you spend more time, hopefully, with your loved ones anyway. We're going to run to a break. When we come back, we'll do that and more.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Russ McDade from the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association is my guest. We're chatting about the big questions about aging, quality of care, how you deal with members of your loved ones in your family when you have to make some pretty big decisions. Russ is one of the great experts in this state who deals with this on a daily basis. All right, so here's the point. You got to sit down and have these conversations, and as we say in Lancaster County, that ain't easy, is it?
Never easy, and it's never the right time. The holidays are one of the best times, though. We know that we often have all the siblings home at the same time with mom and dad, where we can start to have the conversations. Have you thought about how you're paying for it? And it goes from how are you going to pay for it, and maybe a long-term care insurance conversation, into then, when the time comes, what would you need? What would you want? And what type of community would you be choosing? I mean, we have options across the board, from independent living that looks a lot like an apartment complex that your college student might live in, except it's primarily seniors living independently with a community center and a place to congregate and some social and dining options, all the way through skilled nursing, which is essentially a hospital stay for somebody on a longer term basis.
Yeah, but now when we think about this, and one of the things that we've talked about over the years is it's nice to have the conversation, and I want to talk a little bit more about how you get it started and should we be doing it over the holidays. But in reality, isn't this something that folks ought to begin to think about decades before they reach the senior years?
Well, of course, but none of us
probably
ever.
A dumb question.
Plans. Well, we plan for everything. The two places we don't plan because they're the least comfortable, believe it or not, are our retirement and our long-term care needs. A lot of people just kind of let the retirement roll and then look at it at 60 and say, oops, I got to spend a lot longer working than I thought. Long-term care can be the same way. And it's really, it's researching those options, getting out when you're younger to visit communities. I mean, I said that we have a workforce challenge. Our folks that we represent would love to have members of the community in, either as volunteers or as friends to their residents, and that gives you a good first-hand look at what's going on inside a center.
Yeah, then you get inside, you learn what the do's and the don'ts, you learn what you should be doing all along. Yeah, I think you're right about that. We all tend to put things off, particularly when you're talking about retirement and when you're talking about something as important as that. So how do you get this conversation started?
Well, you got to just take it head on, Terry. You got to take it head on. You got to say, Mom, we're getting to that time. We don't want this to be. It's never going to go well for you. I want you to be where you're comfortable. And the only way for that to happen is us to start talking about it now. And too many families find themselves on the wrong end of a fall, where there's a hospitalization, and that's when mom or dad has to go to the facility. They've done no planning. They're stuck on that Thursday or Friday afternoon. You're getting discharged from the hospital. You can't come home yet. Where are you going to go? And they're a deer in the headlights. And advanced planning and conversation can take that edge off of that very difficult time.
So you think that the holidays are a good time?
I think they're always a good time.
Because we're upbeat, we're happy, we're excited.
There might be some eggnog on the table. Right. We're all together. And even if, it's not going to go the way you want it to. You're probably going to get pushed back if you're a son or a daughter. But then tomorrow afternoon, and my own experience, it'll just come out in natural conversation. I've given that some more thought, and I might like to look at this kind of facility or that kind of facility.
No, I get it. I mean, I think that's a tough conversation to have, and you might have to have it over a period of time. And I do think my mother was the same way. I mean, they're really reluctant. Well, sometimes they're reluctant to do this. Others are happy, and you just don't know what the reaction will be. Maybe you do if you know your your parents, right?
I don't think you can ever predict it. The one thing I can say for certain, we find very few people who, once they've made the tough decision and the emotion is gone, if they were isolated in their home, particularly widows or widowers who hadn't made that decision, they have more socialization. They will start to see their health status improve because of that socialization. You know, it is not the end run. In fact, many times it's a new beginning for folks. And so I would encourage them not to look at it as the end of the road, but a potential new beginning for a new chapter sometimes. Where
Boy, hold on, I'm interrupting you here. You've made a point that needs to be re-emphasized. It's a new period in someone's life. Everyone that I know who, and I don't know a huge number of people, but guess what? Once they get in, they make friends. You couldn't get them out once they get into a facility.
That's right. In fact, we hear from people all the time. Family shows up. I had a lunch date with Grandma. She was too busy to join me.
Great point. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And as always, stay well.